Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Sackdown. Today we have the head coach of FlyQuest with us, Nukeduck. One of the things that we got to start with is a clarification, because we've had a lot of talks about the scrim preparation going into Worlds. Earlier on in the tournament, I think you did a show with Rich where you were talking about how you weren't scrimming Asian teams specifically. You had mainly just been scrimming Western teams in order to, like, I guess, hide strats or not show them all the champions that you were playing. Can you clarify what actually went on here? Because we did hear reports later on that you guys were scrimming some Eastern teams.
Yeah, so at first we tried to dodge the Eastern teams, like especially the LPL teams, and we just didn't want our strats leaked, and but later on we started scrimming them when there was like less teams available to scrim, and also when we like maybe used some of the lane swaps we didn't want the world to know about already, because we used them in like the Swiss stage against PSG and GAM. And we got like 3 wins from that basically, and then it was like we also need to develop like new stuff for like later on. So then we started scrimming them basically.
Is there any reason?
Chinese teams?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Because the Chinese team, they leak, you know, like that's what we thought.
Okay.
To each other, and then also, but after first week of Swiss, we started dodging like G2 kind of, because we thought like that like it might come down to that, you know. So then we prefer to scrim actually the like whatever, like DK, because we already played them. For example, they were in like a similar pool to us or something. I can't remember exactly, but basically we was a high chance of playing G2, right? And we already played some Asian teams. Then we started playing them. So it's different situations. So then different scrim partners.
I wanted to ask, because in terms of like the preparation, I know you and Team Liquid, you guys were practicing against each other the whole year, right? Was there some kind of cooperation between like the North American teams? I guess it's only you and Team Liquid because 100 teams left early. Was there something like I think North America was by far the best, of course, the lane swap region, if any. Was there any cooperation between you and Team Liquid in terms of how you prepared, or like the bootcamp in Europe? Was it something that you guys coordinated together, or was it just business as usual?
Well, we tried kind of, yeah, I mean, we tried. Like they came earlier than us, and I think they were scrimming, and they were like unleashing like everything they had in scrims. But I think they pulled back when they saw like, because like keep in mind, LEC is a league where you pick niddly top and the enemy doesn't lane swap. Like, so these guys absolutely don't. They don't know. They can't lane. Like, I don't know why, but I think like just G2 stopped lane swapping, so everyone stopped or something. But like these guys, they're picking Irelia top. They're picking like niddly top. It's like, especially something like Irelia, you can't actually pick it. Like, if the enemy knows what they're doing, like you will just be useless. So we just tried to like hide it, but I think TL, as far as I know, they had a block against G2 early on where they like completely destroyed them with lane swaps. And then, but our rule was against EU teams, we don't lane swap. That was what we were doing. Like in scrims, we were just sandbagging scrims against them, basically. But they ended up figuring like a reasonable lane swap that like kind of works for them. But I don't think they would know what to do against like our swaps where they need to do like some good reacting. But no, I got lost, but I don't remember what's the question. But yeah, we had like kind of a collaboration. Yeah, I was also talking to like Golden Glue about like their like meta observation early on, but they ended up going out in play-ins. But we were still scrimming during the play-ins periods in Europe. So
interesting. Is there any reason why you think that the lane swaps were so much better in North America? Was it just because TL was good at it early on, and because they were the top dog for a while in LCS, everyone was learning from them? Because it seems like as you guys continually played TL, you were getting better and better in lane swaps. When I think back to Game 5 in the upper bracket, you had that they did that iteration of the lane swap where they left the Kai'Sa top, and you guys had Wukong, and they ended up getting a huge lead out of that. It made kind of the game unplayable. So how much of like TL's understanding of lane swaps elevated your guys' understanding of lane swaps?
Yeah, so obviously TL like started it, and like one of our like set plays is like called like a Team Liquid swap, and like I think they made like some of the strongest swaps where they like really abuse like each like champion's strength to like break some of the rules in the swap, and then if the enemy doesn't react properly, you might like completely like start like very behind. So I would say yeah, Team Liquid helped us a lot with that, and they pushed us and they forced us to like to evolve with it. But I will also say like we also like really tried hard to get better at it too. So we also like we also became pretty good at it. Like even because we don't know what Team Liquid are actually thinking when they're doing their swaps. We're only like assuming because like you can swap for many different reasons and like different logics for like what's good and what's not good. So we just did our own like, but they pushed us to become better, and then like on our team like yeah, we just watched a lot of other this. Mithy also like started like specially focusing on that when his VOD reviews, and then I would also say Bwipo is just a very like intelligent guy when it comes to the swap. So he kind of at later on he can kind of break the rules and like make like really good situations for us. And he's just really good at lane swapping, I think, Bwipo. So for example, like if you want to see like one example of that, it'll be like when we played against DK. So usually like they'll invade your top side when they're swapping, right? And then have no one bot if they're planning to share with their top laner from level 1 top. And he played Darius, and he just decided to fight the enemy jungler like 1v2 on Raptors. And then what that does is that the jungler is not able to be level 3 to dive top later, right? So then stuff can just happen. So I would say, yeah, like it's a combination. TL pushed us. I would say Mithy did a good job deep diving, and we were also discussing it like all the time, like shadow boxing with each other. And then he also, but everyone on the team also like understood it well though. So, but yeah, TL was definitely like a big factor.
It was very clear, I think, especially in the GenG series too. I think game one, like in terms of like making sure that when the wave bounces, that you freeze it, and then defending after sharing XP on mid, understanding that mid prior actually like matters in terms of like how you share the XP. It's like in terms of like the XP distribution already in that game one, it was like completely game winning. A very, very hot topic in the community is always, it's like, always when Worlds comes around, it's like Western teams, oh, look, you pick unique picks and look how much success you have. And I feel like even though there's truth to that, I do think that it kind of diminishes the work that is put into it, because it isn't as simple as, oh, look, let's pick something unique. Can you speak about the process of how you guys planned, for example, the first initial draft against How Alive? Or the opening draft against, for example, GenG. What is the planning? How deep did your understanding of the meta have to go before you can add layers to it?
I'm going to pull up the HLD one. I can't remember right now.
That was the Yon Invitation. You guys played against like Kaiser, Rel.
You had like Cassio Amumu. There was the Cassio Amumu game with Urgot top.
Yeah,
and Renata.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, about the draft. Yeah, I mean, we had the. Yeah, I mean, we kind of just. I mean, that one we knew they were going to take Yon, and we could get like some good trades for it. So we thought like, thought like it could work out. Like we did, like at the time we kind of thought like Yon is really strong, obviously, but if he's like fully countered, then like maybe it's not that OP. But like we still like got kind of ran by Yon. So that was like kind of a miss, or not a miss, but like it really didn't go in our favor. Like they killed the quad at level 3 on the lane swap. I think we also lane swapped. Did we have Renata or Leona? Maybe we had Leona.
Alyssa Renata you had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that was a mistake probably. Yeah, and against for the like the picks, it's like the crazy picks work, but it's obviously the other way around. You have to do it, so you have to like start from like figuring out what you think is strong, and then like practicing it, and then like trying it, and then going with it. It's not like let's find something crazy. Then it's probably not going to work that well. And I do think while the picks helped us, I do think like in game 5, like against GenG, I made a mistake kind of. Like I think we were a little too like, or like I don't know, but it's like in retrospect, because we were getting ran in like if it was standard comp against getting standard comp, we were kind of getting ran. So like our read was a little bit like we need to add like at least like one variable that is like they're not used to playing against. to win the games. That was like our assessment. And the last game, when they picked like just Smolder like that on 1-2, I think there was, and we already had a Yon. I think there was like, if we drafted like a standard comp into that, like a Vi6 or a Vi Rakan or something like that, with a Yon into Smolder, I feel like that's just a lot better than what we did. But then we wouldn't have had like the crazy aspect, and then I don't know if we would have won, but and if we would have lost, I would have probably thought like, I knew we should have played something a bit more crazy. But it's hard to say, let's say, like what you should really do.
Yeah. In that game 5, I was watching the games, and in between game 4 and game 5, I was talking about how like I felt like maybe the highest chance to win was giving Yon to Chovy, which is obviously really crazy, but just based off how you guys had been playing, it seems like you guys didn't have huge priority on Yone. It was one of those things where in the TL series, like Yone is dropping through the entire draft. Sometimes it's not getting picked, and you ended up picking it later on in game 5 or game 3 of that series. Was there considerations to potentially give Yone and go one of those anti-Yone comps that you built, or did you just feel like you have to pick Yone into Chovy?
I didn't want to give them Yon because it's like one of those picks that is like, it's the worst kind of pick for me that we could play against with like Smolder and Tristana, which is like champions that kind of lose lane but like scale insanely well. And if Chovy is playing those champs, he's not going to lose lane actually. Like he's just not going to lose lane, and he's going to be a problem. And so for me, like that wasn't really like ever on the table for me. Like we could have thought about banning it on blue side. It's not like we didn't have bans, but yeah, I didn't want to give it over at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to ask additional detailed question now that you're out of the tournament. We have your ear. And the Ashe Seraphine lock-in, if the enemy blind picks Sylas in their pocket, you guys were just ready and willing to just blind the Seraphine bot, or there was no like concern of like the melee matchups?
Yeah, we would have probably just played Seri and then like banned like Nautilus and something
Blitz
like that.
Maybe or something like this, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Blitz I was torn. I know they love Blitz, but like I was thinking like, you know, Blitz is like just a coin flip champ, you know. So we're thinking like maybe like we just take it like if they want to play Blitz, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of their blitz was not just like a dry blitz. They always did the Maokai blitz in LCK, where it was like the blitz has like the kind of like guaranteed hook, so to speak. Later on, they weren't running too many like blitz games where it was just a blitz just in the mix for no reason.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think like blitz, if you have like that kiting team, like Maokai can give you time and set up your thing, and then you play like a kiting comp and you just like try to hook all game. But if you have Sylas mid and you play blitz, like it's just probably just pretty bad, honestly. Like you don't help the Sylas at all, and he can't like. I mean, yeah, you know, you get it right. Like you should play something like that goes in with him, you know, if you want to empower him.
Yeah, like Rakan or something.
Yeah.
As kind of a follow up, I do think like when you're elevating and moving in the next step of the meta, I think the community doesn't understand that you have to understand the meta in the first place, because you guys were inviting the strong champs and then continuing, which I think is important, because always the community is like, oh, the Western teams just need to scrim more and then they're gonna catch up or pick unique champs. So I'm happy that the nuance comes through from the source, because this is something that I have been battling with. I wanted to ask you specifically, Nuke, because G2 couldn't push through the line and winning positions against teams that are conceived better than them. You guys took a game of Humble Life, 2 games of GenG as well. What do you think was the key difference? Because your players play with a level of discipline that I don't think is there from others, but I wanted to get your take on it. What do you think in terms of gameplay? What made you guys different to be able to push it all the way to break a Nexus?
Yeah, so I do think it helps the way that like we kind of like draft against those teams, is that we don't really like pick to win early game most of the time. Like we try to pick like either at least like some element that scales really well, or like champions that like counter the way their champions want to play. So if we do meet them in a team fight, we're probably gonna win. So like I'm not gonna say that I analyzed all of G2's drafts because we didn't have to play against them. But that I feel like that's something that makes it a bit easier for us. So So usually we're like either getting blown out or we're like make it to like a somewhat even mid game, and then we have a really good chance. So maybe that's the difference. Yeah, I don't know what's G2's problem with it, but also we didn't close as well. Like we lost game 1 against Hanwha Life because we got caught like on Grump twice,
like 4 times,
and just didn't, and we just didn't like let's say like play on like we just didn't find the winning formula when we were ahead. We had Baron, we were way ahead, and we had a better like team fighting comp. And they had like all mobile champions and like a split comp. So once you get Baron with like that kind of team comp, usually that's a nail in the coffin if they don't have like massive tempo on you. And we even had teleports up, so should be easy for us to like close that, but we didn't. So I don't know. I guess people also get nervous when you're like playing against those like really good teams. Like you give them too much respect. Maybe that's what we did in that first game, where we could have just like picked a lane and just ended the game. Like, and but we learned from that. So the next games against the Asian teams, when that actually happened, we were like willing to just go and kill them if they were useless.
Yeah, there was a moment when you guys had Baron where I like that you guys were pushing down top, and I saw Quad do the Raptor camp, and I was wondering, like, do you remember him doing the Raptor camp there? Was this something that was discussed? Because I was losing my mind. It was like it was as soon as you guys got the Baron, or maybe it was the second Baron, I forget which one it was, but there was a moment where Quad was doing the Raptors while everyone else was going top, and I was like, if you guys are all in the top lane at that moment and you're stepping up together, is there really anything Hanwha Life could do? Because I'm looking at Hanwha Life's competent. It looked like it would be kind of unplayable for them on that Baron timer.
Yeah. So, well, I don't remember exactly that, but I just like what I'm more thinking about like telling the guys like what plan because there was no plan to do that. That's why it didn't happen. It's not because like we made a plan, we knew what to do, and Quad just decided like Raptors is more important, you know. So I don't even remember that, but like our main focus was to just like think about that, identify that, and you know make the plan better. Like that's what we were like focused on. So I don't remember that.
Yeah. So an interesting topic that I thought we could get into is the dynamic between you and Mithy both being coaches, because normally when we see a couple coaches, they have very defined roles. You'll have like the one coach that is supposed to, you know, instill discipline within the team. Maybe he is the personal skills. He's really good at talking to players. And then you have the other guy that's strategy focused. You have the strategic coach, which is doing all the gameplay stuff. But I mean, you're somebody who obviously played a long time. You have a lot of ideas about the game yourself. Mithy is another guy that's known to be like a strategic coach. So in a way, it's like you guys have double strategic coaches in a way. What are like how is the breakdown? Like, what are the responsibility differences between you and Mithy within the team? Since I would foresee you guys having similar roles.
Yeah, that's a little bit true. So I would say like the main thing like he is like his main like, or not his main, but like his unique job is to like coach like Busio individually, and then like of course like AD and support goes pretty hand in hand. So him, Arrow, and Maso and Busio do like stuff together too, and then mine is mostly like draft. It's like my more like unique one. Of course, like I bounce stuff with him all the time, you know, because like he's a smart guy. But like usually when I do the draft, like he doesn't have to be there all the time to like do meeting or like or something like that. Basically, that's just my responsibility. And then when we are like watching the game, like I'm watching a bit broader because especially our worlds, like I'm very interested in seeing like if we're like using these champions, how does it look like when we're facing those champions? I'm more like looking at it from that angle. So like, and then he dives a bit more into like the specifics of things, I would say, because like he'll more like do one review and then he'll just like notice something and then he'll just like only focus on that, while I'm focusing a bit more like on the bigger picture maybe. But then we also like discuss everything with each other, like so. But those would be like the individual. So for example, when there was like lane swaps happening, and in the start and there wasn't lane swapping, he was just looking at like lane swap wads a lot while I was like leading the practice. And yeah, but we also discussed everything because we're like pretty much at the same wavelength when it comes to like the game. So like that's very nice for us. Yeah.
As a follow-up, because always I believe like players are very involved in the process too. I think from outside everyone's just going to assume inspired Bwipo that they contributed as well in the conversations. It seems like you guys have a very good balance of everything. If you compare this year to the previous year of 100 Thieves, how do you feel? Do you feel a lot more liberated in terms of the balance, in terms of how the players are, and do you feel like rookie somewhat? I feel like Wusi is a rookie. I feel like playing with Doublelift and Bjergsen isn't kind of the same thing. He feels like he was kind of held back in a way. I kind of want to ask you just about the balance and the contribution of Inspired and Bwipo to the process of you guys improving, because this summer as a point of improvement has just been like incredible from outside.
Yeah, so they like of course they also need to focus on themselves from time to time, but they're like very integral when it comes to improvement. I mean, a team is always going to be as good as like everyone that's part of it. You know, it's usually so. For example, Inspired, he jungles, right? So if you lose a game in early game, then there's only going to be like really one thing that he can think about, and it's like, okay, should I have like trying to go there or not? You know, because he's not like playing the game. It's not like there is wave control and trading and like a lot of different things going in lane. So he'll usually like on the replay like focus most about like either like seeing like if the laners made mistakes to make the game like this, or to like learn about the lane matchups or like the champ interaction, so he can do a better job next time. You know, so he's very like focused on that, and that's makes it like I think that's a very big thing. And then Bwipo is also like very smart and experienced, and he knows like what like a good team looks like. So he can also like point out if someone is doing something like he thinks they shouldn't be doing. So yeah, they're both like helping the team, like trying to improve the team as well as me and Mithy doing it. And then, but usually everyone asks like questions to each other about like what about this, like what's happening here. So usually Quad will be like, yeah, you know, talking about like, hey, could the support come to mid or like something like that, yeah, and then. But I would say Busi also became more like inspired, like when he grew more as a player. He's also, because the support is a little similar to the jungler in that way, where like what he should be doing really depends on like what kind of like what are the lane matchups and the win conditions of the draft, let's say, and all those kind of stuff. So for a support to make the right decision, you also need to understand like how all the champs on the map interact and that kind of stuff. So he's also been like doing that more lately. Yeah.
Watching Netflix without using ExpressVPN is like paying for a gym membership but only being allowed to use the treadmill. Don't be a punk, because Netflix blocks your content depending on your location, of course, and ExpressVPN lets you change your online location so you can control where you want Netflix to think you're located. You know, they don't need to know, that's your business. They have servers in over 100 countries, which allows you to gain access to thousands of new shows, and you'll never run out of stuff to watch. Dom, is there anything specific that you watch using ExpressVPN? Talk to me. Give me a recommendation.
Yeah, I've had to use different VPNs to have access to shows. If you don't end up using ExpressVPN and you are in a different country, like for example in Germany, it was very nice to have ExpressVPN over there. When I was in Australia, it was the same type of thing. And yeah, it just gives you a category that would be way more conducive to what you end up using. So I've really liked using ExpressVPN. It's the best one that I've used, and I hope you guys can enjoy it as well by using our code Yamato. Tell them a little bit more about how they can get a discount on ExpressVPN.
It's just, you just jump on, of course, the simple website that is expressvpn.com/sackdown. Use our code to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. It's just that simple. expressvpn.com/sackdown, so you can enjoy all of these features that we mentioned. You know, it's very easy to use, works on all your devices, blazing fast speeds, because that's super important. expressvpn.com/sackdown. Don't be a punk and unlock your life.
I want to bring it back to MSI times, because MSI was an interesting time for FlyQuest. I see that reaction. from you. I remember just hearing reports. It's past the statute of limitations, so I remember just hearing from random people that it's like, oh, FlyQuest is imploding. Like there was like rumors of roster moves even during the tournament. Obviously, guys, you ended up benching Jensen for Quad, who was doing really well in academy. How rough was MSI when it came to shaping the team? Was the team actually like blowing up, or was it not as severe as maybe people were talking about behind the scenes?
I mean, we kind of were blowing a bit up. Like we did like get control over it, but the underlying problem was there, and it was not fixable. So while everyone like agreed and was like, okay, let's like do our best for this tournament, like let's not like let's like leave that like on the shelf, it was still like impacting people, and it was not something that we could fix, in my opinion. So yeah, people were playing like quite like I think people could feel that like stuff was happening. I think Jensen could feel that like he was like probably like gonna get replaced, and then some other like I don't know, people were just a bit like out of the moment when we were at MSI. They were just like affected a bit, and then ended up like playing bad because of it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we I don't know what happened to us. We played so bad. Like we played against a PSG that again didn't know how to lane up again, so we were spawning 2 levels ahead, and we were still like losing and shit. Like it was, we played like quite bad, and I also think like I could have done a better job at MSI, like caught some things like more early, and stuff like that. And but still, my main focus was like, let's say our main problem, what we wanted to improve, was my main focus by far. But it was just yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah, we just like kind of got tilted and kind of like sucked. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. I was interested. Was there any other like possibilities that FlyQuest wouldn't have looked like this in summer? Was it always just like, oh, like everyone kind of knew within the team that Jensen was getting replaced, or was there like a possibility that you guys like revamped even more than that going into summer?
So there was some possibility that other things could happen, but not because they would be like I mean, I don't know. I mean, not like realistically though. But like there was like some things, but mostly we weren't like completely set on like changing mid either. But like we went home and we did like we did excessive scouting the moment we like go back to LA, and before we made a decision, like the decision what came out like one of those like Pokemon things that like that's happening in the middle of our scouting meeting when we were deciding like whether or not that's happening,
Nice.
So I guess they knew before us.
Who's the snitch? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and it was a tough decision because it was not like a good look at the time for the team, but those things comes and goes. Like I've seen it way before, but like as like for like organization, that's very important. Like their publicity, and people weren't gonna like changing out Jensen for Quad, because Quad in their eyes was just like some random Korean guy that sucked in LCK, and we just got second place with Jensen. Jensen actually had a very good playoffs like in spring. And up until the final was a little shaky, but the whole way there, and even regular season, like he was a big part of our run. So we knew people weren't going to like that, even if we did think like Quad was the better player. So there was a real decision having to be made still. Yeah.
Interesting. I was wondering how important to you guys solo queue is, because when I saw Quad, I mean, he like obviously was rank 1 in the solo queue ladder. He was doing extremely well. He just looked like he was a level up on everyone else. And Masu was another player that like part of the because I'm not in teams, a lot of the way that I judge players is when I play with them in solo queue, like how fucking good are these guys? And like part of the reason I was always on the Masu train is I was like, this guy is just fucking cracked. And Quad is the same. Like, do you have importance on solo queue when you're scouting players? I know NA solo queue has a bad reputation. People kind of view it as like, oh, you can be high rank and be dog shit or whatever. Does it mean anything to you when somebody is performing so well in North American solo queue?
It's tough, or like it's difficult for me to know. Like if I was coaching in EU, I would have for sure thought of solo queue as an important thing, or Korea. But NA solo queue is actually like pretty trash. Like you don't
Okay.
really get better playing there too much as well. And so I don't put that much importance on NA solo queue, but you can of course feel like how good players are if you watch the actual games themselves. That's also how I told my team, when the Dignitas Super Team was made, I was currently on my post MSI like grind. Like I grinded like to Challenger because I was in NA and I had nothing to do because I couldn't go back to EU because like we had to do like the scouting and everything. So I just decided to go straight back to LA.
Mhm.
And I played with like 4 of the Dignitas players in solo queue, and I told my team like, if you guys lose against these guys, your guys are just bad at the game. I knew like those guys like so you can see it,
Yes.
yeah. And yeah, so
That's where
yeah,
my
you just
Aika
have to
hate
watch.
started. That was where
What?
my Ica hate started in season 10
Oh.
from playing with him in solo queue. I was just like, nah, this guy can't be good. I refuse to believe that this guy is actually gonna pop off in LCS. Like he's just running it down. Apparently in solo queue in EU though, he gets like rank 1 and shit. So maybe it's just like got him on unlucky games. But that was the beginning of me just being like, it does. You do lose respect for players that are pros when you play solo queue with them. It does happen. Like if you see somebody running it down, it will be the type of thing where you tell your players you can't lose these guys. Like if these guys are that much worse than me and I'm your fucking coach, then how the fuck can you guys lose to him?
I think
Yeah, I mean,
also
yeah.
by extension as well, it's like when you watch like these streamer tournaments and you have like these rank 1 junglers play with like, I remember like Agorin was playing with like Nemesis, and Agorin is like just fucking clearing camps, like a moth, like completely on the wrong spot. And you just see like the disconnect because it's like just a different game. Because like, you can be high rank, but you can be high rank the wrong way and the right way. Because this topic of NA Solgi always comes up. It's like it's trash. Everyone agrees. In your end, on your end, because you guys had such a steady improvement. What are some methods that you guys like employ? Like, do you do group sessions in terms of reviewing VODs? Like, how do you guys spend your time? Because I imagine that you guys still work really, really fucking hard, regardless of using solo queue as a tool or not.
Yeah, so we are a team that we don't really do like that many meetings. So for example, we don't do draft meeting, for example, and we don't do like that many meetings. So we are one of the teams that probably have more free time. So it's something that we aren't like completely figured out what we should do, because some of our players, they play so little solo queue, and it's like I talk to them and like I really get where they're coming from. They have high ping and it's really bad. So like, but they still have to play a bit, especially when they want to learn new champs. But mostly we'll do meetings about stuff that like me or Mithy really like found to be a big problem. Something like, okay, this is something we can really make an impact and change. Then we might call a meeting, and then the meeting will have like a bigger impact because everyone will be like, okay, like this is something real. It's not the scheduled 1-hour meeting every single day, that's just being filled.
Yeah, I always hated that as a player. I just feel like there's a lot of times where you're just doing the meeting to do the meeting, but there's actually no purpose for the meeting, and it's like, yeah, I guess we're just doing it because we're professionals and like that's what we're paid to do. But a lot of meetings I feel like can be avoided if you actually just have like a if you have just some sense of like what you're trying to improve as a team already.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's what I think too. As a player, I also appreciated that. So try to not take the player's time unnecessarily. And then yeah, but so for example, Masu, he grew up in this solo queue, and he is obviously like an insane player. And NA solo queue isn't that good for him, but he'll be watching like a lot of like pro view VODs to like improve his laning phase and whatnot, because he's also ADC, so he doesn't need to learn that many champs. It's like a little case by case. Whereas Busio, he needs to play a bit more solo queue because he's a support, and support got to be able to play like many styles of different champions, right? So you have to like practice that. Mid laner kind of has to do that too, but I haven't really gotten that through to Quad at the moment. Like he is mostly playing like mages and stuff, and I think he could improve from playing more solo queue. But at the same time, it's still like a cost benefit analysis, I guess, if that's the way to say it. But because it's still like you still get like burnout faster if you play too much solo queue, and especially if you don't feel like doing it. So I feel a bit it feels weird for me to force players to play like solo queue, and it feels weird.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like then, considering it's like you have like a fucking long pro player career, you're still grinding challenger like between MSIs and shit. Like I saw you play Champions Queue, you're still playing good. Mithy, long player career. Arrow, long player career, very successful careers across the board. Would you say just that personal touch that like each player has someone always to get like that feedback is less vague and very specific to each individual? Would you say that is like the main driving force in FlyQuest's improvement?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, ideally you have like 5 good players, one for each role, and then like those guys also get aligned on how like you want to play. Like I think so. It's a lot of like, but after every game, even though we don't always do like meeting stuff, it'll be like if you need to talk over something as a team, we'll do it, and if not, then we'll do individual. Yeah, so like Mithy with Busu most of the time, but each coach still like talks to other people if they feel like that's needed, you know. But yeah, I think that's something we do. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's super cool to hear, because I also realized after like a long time, like these fucking draft meetings are just a pain in the ass. It's like you do, like I started doing a draft meeting at the beginning of the week where people just have assignments of what they should play, and if they want to contribute, that's the moment. And then it's like by the time you're playing the match, everything should be decided. So I remember being in teams where we have like those draft meetings for hours, and then it's like players come with their anxiety and want to change everything. It's like, no, fuck that. Like, stay away from me, you know? Everything is already said and done. We don't need to change shit. I think every one of us has been in a team where that is the case. Would you say that you just everything is like living, and then by the time match comes, you guys are just set in stone?
We are, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's like we're of course like it's of course a process. Like even though we don't have the meeting, we still talk about it, and we do the draft in the scrims as well. Like we do try to like we do practice together there, and then we will ask the players or like, what do you think about like this situation or this situation? Is this a champion you think you can use? What kind of champions would you want to use in this case? Like we do always like talk about it, but just when it's like necessary, I guess. And then there is on the back end like a little bit more like that we just prep like the coaches for like all the like different scenarios that we think can happen, so we just have them prepped, and those are more like so it's like just so we're ready for like what the enemy might do, but the players don't need to see all that for example. So like we still so it's not set in stone. Like once it comes, like we still have to react to what the opponents are doing, you know.
Oh, of course.
So yeah. But like our bans maybe, and then our
Yeah, like first 3 is like pretty predictable a lot of the time. We had Inspired on an episode of Sackdown, and he seems like he's somebody who's very confident in like being able to lead a team. Like he knows the way he wants his team to play. And one thing he said to us is that like we were asking him about coaching because it feels like he's somebody who is so sure of how he wants to play the game that sometimes it's hard for him to like be coached in a way. And we're like, what is the most useful part of coaching to you? And he said a lot of what you guys do well is prepping for the opponents. So when you have a player like Inspired, do you have to like focus less on some of the internal problems of the team because he's kind of being able to take care of it in game? You can focus more on your opponents, or do you still have to just like like make sure that he's leading them in the right direction? Like how hands on are you with like the in-game strategy and like the planning and stuff when it comes to like Inspired's leadership and stuff like that compared to the like scouting and preparing for your opponent specifically?
Yeah, so he leads like in-game like strategy. He like is leading it. Of course, it's like the patches change and the game was different when he came to play now than it was when he played actually last spring. Like there was some key changes that changed the way macro is played. So then it's still us. We can still help him. But once he like gets that, that's not like once he gets it, then he gets it, and then like you don't have to do more because now it's just a part of his like shot calling like and macro. But it's not like he has like 5 eyes and can see what everyone's doing. So we still have to like work with the team and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, like I don't know, he's just our captain and our shot caller in the game, and he operates on a like a high level. So some of these like that I'm used to when I'm coaching a team is like if you have a team that's a little weaker and you don't have someone that is like very cognizant shot calling, you need to give them like a lot of like set plays, you know, like this situation, you guys need to do this, you guys need to ward here, you contest like this wave here, and then we go here and we fight. And
yeah, we invade with Sion bot side, and then you base, and then you try to TP top lane, yeah, something like this.
Yeah, or not base, just channel the TP maybe.
Yeah, just channel the TP right in front of an enemy with CC, like, you know, who knows?
Dragon from bottom side and open your Nexus. That's also
also known as the lane swap. We found that out through Double If this year, so that was great.
Yeah. But yeah, those things like if the enemy has better poke, you contest like dragon through bottom, you know, like those kind of stuff. But that doesn't, we don't use that as, that's kind of the thing that we don't really do in this team that I'm used to doing, because Casper usually like calls the thing, and he likes to really look at the small details of the game. And so he just likes to do what's best in each individual game. That's how he thinks. Of course, I think like in some moments when people get stressed, we can benefit from like some kind of structure, but that's mostly how he likes to do it. So like that part of it is something that we don't do. Like we talk about it, like how should we have done this and like what makes it, but we don't have like as much like set like 5-man plays, I would say, as like some other teams probably have because of that. So we do have actually more brain power as coaches to focus on like different things, maybe more like, yeah. And scouting opponents, of course, as a coach, especially if you're going to do draft, like scouting the enemy team is like one of the highest ROIs you can do, because if you spot like which champion is the key to their wins, and like which champions they prioritize but they aren't as good as, or like something like that, and you make the right read, then you can really like have a huge impact, especially in like playoffs. So but you need to watch like all their games obviously to figure it out. But it helped that we already knew who we were going to face. It like we already knew it was TL and C9 like from the get-go, so we basically went into like playoff scouting mode with the whole staff, like since like week 7 of LCS. We already knew like we got to beat C9 and TL, and then we're gonna win.
And then you got 100 Thieves in semifinals, bro. What happened?
Oh yeah, we did already beat C9 though. To be fair, we sent them to the loser bracket. But yeah, then we got those guys. Yeah, and I mean, but scouting them wasn't too hard, you know, because it was like watch the games. Like every game was exactly the same, you know. It's like they just like play their lanes and then fight every objective no matter what, and just like send it, you know. They never do like something else. So like it was a very like we did of course like take them seriously. But it was quick, like to see like what was their like game plan and how they think and how they draft. There's like they really like to have go buttons, and they really like to just group and just like go on objectives.
Yeah.
And pick for that. Like not necessarily scale, just like pick stuff that can fight together.
They were not the the most strategically deep team that we've ever had from North America. I'll say that. Yamato, I thought you had a question.
Well, that 100 Thieves team would be really insane in season 2. Like,
oh yeah,
in season 2 they would be like the goats, you know, like because back then you would win a tournament if you just clicked your buttons on the same target and you were on the same screen. You know, that was the metric you go by. But to bring us back, because you mentioned like you made the comparison of you mentioned a little bit of your first year, because your first year was like we talked about 100 Thieves. We mentioned it. I can imagine everything was so different because you were the assistant coach and then you moved to a head coach position. Your transition into coaching. You were set on coaching forever. No more playing. You were good to go. Like how did you adjust to the role, and talk us through the journey of becoming the coach you are today after now 2 years of experience?
Yeah, so after like I was done with the Excel split, like I just didn't play the game for like months, and I didn't like talk to anyone from the scene. Like I was kind of done with playing, and then in November I'm like, okay, if I get paid well, then like I could potentially play again, but like I wasn't like setting myself up for like success in that regard, because I literally didn't play the game until like November, and even then, so I just like didn't want to play unless it was something like really good, which obviously didn't happen. And then because also like the problem like I had was that when I was playing at the later time was that I got like burnout from the game, and then that is like playoffs means everything, and like I was kind of like burnt out in playoffs, so I was like slept worse, got easier stressed, and then ended up like not performing as well as I did like the whole year in like the playoffs, which is the important matches, right? And then that's a little demoralizing. So then that also, yeah, you know, that kind of sucks. So like I didn't want to like do that much anymore. And then also people like thought I was worse than I was because of that. But also was also my real level in the important matches, so made sense as well. And then I just got approached by like 100 Thieves, and I kind of liked it. It sounded fun to like try coaching and move to America. I wasn't set on coaching at the time, but I thought like I try it and I can learn from like my head coach. It was Kaz. He was on Worlds many times and did well in LEC like a lot of times with the Mad Lions. So I just decided to just try it. I was chilling as an assistant coach on L100 Thieves. I liked it. I liked working with Kaz. But we lost like too many games, and then like the team didn't like Kaz, the leadership, so they fired him. Like I thought it was fine, honestly. Like he got a bit stressed out with everything, but like he was a very hard worker, and like I think he's like a good addition to teams. Like definitely not a bad coach. Um, and then I had coach for the rest of that split, and we did like better. And it was that kind of team where you just got to give them all the set plays, you know. And then like we try to like go as far as we can. Yeah, and then. But over the whole first year, I had some doubts. I was like, this is like, I'm coaching players that maybe I'm a little better than some of these guys. Like, this feels a little weird, you know, like,
Okay.
you know, but that's like, I think that's very normal. Like, a lot of coaches have told me they feel like the same way. But now I don't feel that anymore. Like, I like more like at peace with it. And yeah, I enjoy it now. Like, I don't have like those doubts in my head anymore.
Was that surprising to you? Because when you were coaching this 100 Thieves team, I mean, they had a bunch of veterans, right? I mean, you have Double Lift, Bjergsen, and you had Closer, who had been, I mean, I guess he was like the in-game leader for a lot of these like 100 Thieves iterations where they ended up going far, you know, winning a championship, etc. So was it surprising to you that they weren't able to put it together in the game? Because you would think that a team like that would have a lot of structure considering the names on it.
I mean, in the end, that they did kind of like do fine. You know, we did end like third in regular season. But yeah, I think they just and Cast as well. They just like went in with a bit too high expectations, perhaps, of their like how they were gonna play the game. They were like very like at the start very focused on like very small details and like very like more complex like mid game stuff. And I think they like just overshot a bit at the start, I would say, like on how we're gonna play the game, and then it just didn't work, and then we didn't have like a good fallback for like stage games. So, but we ended up doing fine after. So, I mean, I was not really that surprised at the time. I thought like lower of NA than what I do now as well. Because when I was playing, whenever I was facing like NA teams, whether like scrims or Rift Rivals or whatever, they were like absolute piss. So I thought
Nice.
like NA was like low, you know, at the time. But now I think like some teams are better. So yeah.
I mean, was it just low at the time? Because 2023, I mean, I had really no expectations of the region. I feel like this is probably the first year in a while where I feel like the region actually got better, and I credit that to you guys and TL pushing each other so much throughout the year. Like, was NA significantly worse in your mind last year than this year, or is it pretty similar? It's just that a couple teams have more cohesive rosters.
I don't really know. I think C9 seemed pretty good last year, like Eminence and Berserker roster, and then who was playing Fudge, Blabber. I thought they were good, and but they kind of like mental boomed, I guess. And then we also had the NRG team was like they were performing though, so like I don't know, like it's probably stronger now than it was because like we're actually like we were at least a little bit even ahead on some things. So but yeah, I don't know. It was fine, I guess. Maybe a little better now. Yeah.
Interesting. So, ever any chance you coached in EU, or was it just like you got the 100 Thieves offer and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'll just take that?
I mean, now where I like coaching, I could coach in EU, but at the time I wasn't gonna take an assistant coach job in EU and move to Berlin and do that. Like, it was like going to NA was like kind of like part of the like, I was like going to try it and go to NA at the same time. So it was like, okay, that's pretty fun. But like, I wasn't looking for like a job in EU for like assistant coach at the time. Yeah, it was more like if I liked the project and everything, then maybe. But yeah, it was just I was just trying something basically.
Interesting.
And now as a follow-up, you moved from 100 Thieves. I imagine the staff was much smaller, right? It's like now in comparison to Fly. Would you say what you guys have in FlyQuest, if teams that are watching, is that the model that you should like go for in terms of like building out your staff and supporting former pro players that have been like successful and push them into that role, those roles? Because I feel like that's something that's very missing, because you guys have such an expansive staff and the growth is so evident. Would you say this is the recipe to success?
Yes, I think if you can have 5 like very competent people like doing like individual coaching with each of your players, like that's probably a very good idea. And then like you can even, and then you have like people focusing on different things and they can like focus more narrowly on that. That's probably good, but that's because that's also what NRG did, right? When they also finished like top 8, they beat G2, and they did that, and so
you need like 15 coaches. You need like 30 coaches, just like NRG. Get academy coach, 5 players.
But like you can have like 10, like 1 for each player. You can have like 1 guy doing like performance coaching. Like I mean, I don't know, maybe not 10, but like I think you should have a lot. Like, but it's just a money thing, right? Like, and you also need competent people. Actually, you can't just take anyone. So it's like yeah, if you have the money to spend, I would say yeah, I think it can be pretty smart. Yeah.
Is there any issue with like people overstepping each other? Because I feel like probably one of the hardest things to do when you have that many people is like not having people overstep their boundaries, or not having players getting conflicting information from multiple different coaches. Like, how do you manage the situation where you do have like a larger staff?
Yeah, so you're probably gonna have like 1 guy leading it, and then he and the staff should like be talking within themselves to like get on the same page. But yeah, that is a challenge that you have to like, and 1 guy has to, I guess, oversee it a little bit, and yeah, just discuss things before you bring it to the players as well. For example, if you know what kind of like mid game you think like would work well for your team to play, and then you like you discuss it with all the coaches, and you like kind of shadow box a little bit to make sure like everyone understands what happens in like each outcome, because it's not like always going to happen the same way. So yeah, I mean it's like it's a bit harder to pull off maybe, but it's like I think it's going to be good, because it's just even before when I was playing, I could easily tell that like I had a guy working with my jungler at the time, Joko. He just came from like some low league, and he came to LEC, and he was like kind of all over the place, and then like I had 1 guy just like coaching him, and it just became so much better. And I think I had similar experience every time someone was just like got a lot of attention from 1 person, because not only do you get all the attention, but it's also that guy keeping you accountable all the time. That's also like part of the thing, because if he just keeps you accountable all the time, then you really don't want to be making mistakes in scrims, and then you also get better practice because you don't make lazy mistakes. Your game looks more like the game you're going to play on stage. Like, it all snowballs kind of. So like it's yeah, I think it's good.
What we're hearing now is that you guys have a good thing going on. Should we expect the FlyQuest remains exactly the same coming into the next year?
Well, I'm not the GM of FlyQuest, but I do think a lot of people are like what we got going. So like it's probably a good chance that at least like most of it's similar. Good chance for that, yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you about Damonte, because Damonte is somebody who came into a coaching role, obviously at NRG, and he's had a lot of success. I mean, Damonte's coaching career, it's just been like only winning. What does Damonte provide to the coaching staff? Because he seems like a good guy to be around. Like I've I've spent time with him. I used to duel with the guy. He just has great vibes. Like, what specifically does he add to the coaching staff? Like, what is his job within the whole project?
Yeah, so I mean, he's the performance coach, so like he'll do like so he'll help us, like when we're in LA we usually like stretch in the sun in the morning, so he leads that. And then but that's not the most important thing. But yeah, he is a very like nice person to be around, where the players can talk to someone that isn't gonna like talk to them too much about the game. And if a player wants to vent about like how this like game was fucking shit, or his teammate entered him or something, he can vent to Tanner, because he won't have any objections, or anything like that. Like, because he doesn't really focus on the game. So it's just someone to like talk. Players can vent to, players can spend time with him, and whenever someone does feel like tilted, he'll usually step in. So like, I would say that's like where he has the biggest impact, is that he's like he's a friend of everyone and he's good vibes, but he's also there when someone needs someone to really to talk to and calm down, or like he'll do that job. And like in that moment, that's very important.
Yep.
To like take them aside and talk to them and stuff like that.
And I can imagine that it's nicer for players to have somebody who was a former pro that really understands what they're going through, because a lot of times performance coaches come from more of like the like sports side of things, and they might not have the same understanding of the game. So I feel like they probably can connect with somebody like Damonte deeper on in these types of problems, because he's been through it with them.
Yeah, and then he also takes it seriously. He's also like figuring out how he should like do those talks and stuff. So he's like kind of like, okay, he doesn't have the degree, but he has friends that do the same thing, like a mentor. So he's kind of like got like both sides of it, kind of. So like, yeah, I think the players appreciate that a lot.
Okay. I'm curious, Erlend, because it's like we have a lot of history. It's like we played together in season 2, season 3. We played bot lane together. Like in my mind, when I think back of like your time in Lemon Dogs, you were one. In my mind, when you were playing in Lemon Dogs up until that final, I think that you were the best player in Europe at that time. It's just that Xpeke and that Fnatic roster, they had the party resistance coming into finals. But just looking at your like player career, I think that you were one of the players that. Like probably the strongest player to not have won, right? Because you were in finals, you played many finals, you were in many different rosters, whether it was the Origin or the Schalke or the Lemon Dogs, right? And now this year, as a head coach, you managed to get that elusive title and winning the LCS. Was that special to you in any way, or like how was the experience for you to finally get that trophy that was so close but yet so distant?
Yeah, so well, when we did win it, like my goal was obviously to win the LCS, and when we did win it, I was very happy and I worked very hard for it. But I don't look like that much into retrospect thinking like it would have been so nice if I won, or like I don't derive like happiness from like how many trophies I won or something like that, or like even ego. Like for me, just like we just try our best and as a team, and then like I don't know what. Yeah, I just don't. It does not that important to me, like what happened in the past. Like it's just more about like where we are now and what we're doing, and like but we're trying as hard as we can, and of course that creates like a very nice atmosphere of camaraderie. So yeah, it's more about that for me than like stacking titles. I would say though, like if you do well, then we're gonna try our best to win again. It's not that. It's just. Yeah, I don't know. I just never thought of it. It didn't hang over me, even though I hadn't won before.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to.
Yeah, Yamato's the same way. No, I was just gonna say Yamato is the same way. Like it doesn't hang over him at all. He hasn't mentioned to me 100 times where he's like, "Oh, we should have fucking won," or "I wish we fucking won that." Like,
but it does feel bad when the enemy was shit and you were just worse. Like when it was like an easy. Like it's more of a regret in the fact that the pain comes from the fact that there was a clear opportunity to be much better. That's the regret. Like if they were way better than us, God bless. If 2018 Fnatic beat us or G2 beat us, when they were 29, that's okay. But when the league is shit and you lose, that hurts, in a different way.
I see. I mean, yeah. I don't feel like because in 2013, like we literally lost because half the team got drunk and like I got like sick and shit. So like this final, we should have we would have won. Like to be honest, But I still don't feel like bad about it, even though that was the case.
But that story is kind of wild. Like, we met Jensen for the first time. You remember how much he talked shit about us? And we met him at Gamescom. Jensen was such a bad boy back then, you know? He threatened to... Like, back then, it was the Wild West, you know? Everyone was... Like, he was threatening to beat everybody up and whatever the hell. It was just how people talked. And then when we meet Jensen for the first time, because that was the sub of Lemon Dogs, we just see him walking with a tank top, and he starts giggling because he knows what we're thinking. He knows everything because he comes in. He's not like that tall, but he just walks like this, and he knows in that moment that we all understand that it was all just jokes.
He was going to beat the shit out of you. And then he did.
I would say Jensen was pretty jacked at the time though. Like it looked like he had been working out.
Low body fat for sure, yeah, with the tank top, 100%. That was crazy tanks.
I can't imagine Jensen wearing a tank top. I don't think I've ever seen him wear a tank top in all the time that I've ever spent with him. So that is a crazy image. I can't imagine Jensen being like toned with a tank top. What did NA do to this guy? What did NA just ruin this guy? What the fuck?
I think, bro, we had the perfect follow-up here, bro. Because we had the Kazi episode when there was crazy shit. And back in the day, bro, it was the Wild Wild West. Well, what is the craziest fucking story? Because there's the Lemon Dog story that you can share. I remember also there was the fucking when you guys were in Schalke after playing the Fnatic finals. Everyone got fucked up then too, and then people got sick, and it was a mess. Is there any story that has passed the statute of limitation that you can share with us?
I mean, I guess I could talk about the 2013 one because it's like we were all so young back then, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if I should say everything, but like
probably not, bro.
Probably not everything.
I'm just not gonna name names, but like, so few of the players got very drunk. So 2013, like I'm 17 at the time, and we're gonna play Gamescom, the final. I don't know which city that is again, but
it was Cologne, no?
It was Gamescom.
It was in Cologne. Yeah. So we just won against Moscow 5, or what they were called, Gambit at the time, perhaps. And we qualified for Worlds. We were in the final. And then the after party was like that on that evening. So I probably would have gotten drunk myself, you know, like I'm not going to lie. But like I was sick, so I had a fever. Yeah. So I actually was lying home in my bed, and we were sharing rooms. So I would say two of our players got insanely drunk, like very, very drunk. Both of those players in the cab the next day to the match were giggling about how drunk they still were. And and I was like extremely tilted at that because that guy who slept with me, he brought home a girl to the room while I was trying to sleep because I was sick, and he was drunk and he brought home a girl. And so like obviously it was a bit hard to sleep, and I was getting a bit annoyed. And then so I ended up like just leaving, and I ended up like staying in Unlimited's room. That's like he coached me in Excel, but yeah, he was a player at the time. So I went to sleep at like 6 a.m. probably there. So two got drunk, and then we also had one that got heartbroken by a girl that he had been talking to online for a long time. So
it turned out to be Jensen. You got catfished. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways,
yeah, and then she had eyes for a different guy at the event, and
was it another pro player? Was it another pro player?
And not even. So that probably made it even worse.
Oh,
so he was pretty fucked up. Like I don't know how much he slept that night. Probably very little. So yeah, and then we ended up.
That lady was hitting on me, dude.
Yeah, that was Yamato. She was hitting him. Yeah.
Oh, you called me not a pro player. I was a sub, bro. Just get it out there, bro.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It was like, oh, it was Yamato that makes it even worse, man. What the fuck, man?
What the hell, man?
Just that you weren't a pro player. Like, let's say it was like Froggen or Expecki, you know, it's like, okay, like whatever, you know, yeah, so that happened, and then
wait, Yamato, you stole one of your teammates' girls? What the fuck?
Nah, bro. Like, she was weird, by the way. She stole my hotel key card. She stole it. I was afraid, bro. I was scared.
All right, okay, Yamato.
I thought I was getting murdered or some shit.
Jesus.
It was messy, bro. Yeah. And then you guys played. And did you win a map, or you got 3-0?
we actually won the map somehow, but I didn't want to play. Like I was actually talking to my to the owner, or like the owner, manager, general manager. It was just one role at the time, and I was telling him like, "Can Yamato play? Like I don't want to play this shit. Like these guys are drunk. I didn't sleep all night. I was like, I'm not gonna play this final." I was telling him because like I knew what was gonna happen. Like I don't know. Like I just didn't want to play. I was so fucking mad. And then I was just so tilted. And yeah, after we were like 2-1 down, I was like, guys, just like lose in peace. Basically,
Okay,
just
nice.
I still had a fever and I barely slept all night. So yeah, and then yeah, we lost 3-1. So yeah,
Excellent.
Then there was Worlds.
Yeah.
Then there was
And,
Worlds.
yeah, Worlds. I mean, there was this format. Only 2 out of 5 teams go out or something, and we just lost against the Korean and the Chinese at the time. T1 and
OMG,
Royal.
I think. Oh, was it Royal?
Your famous Swain against Ari. He was already thinking of cooking. You were already cooking pigs back then, bro.
Yeah, but back then I was actually like, I was just an idiot. So I just played 3 champs. Like I like Gragas was OP, Oriana was OP, but I just didn't play them out of principle. I was like, nope, I'm gonna play Zed, Ari, or Fizz, or like we're just gonna open. So when they ban Zed and Fizz, T1 and first pick Ari, like that's a problem.
What did you play? Did you play Swain? Is that? Yeah. Oh, I remember the game, bro. I remember. Oh, I was flaming you. I was like, this guy is he just can't play Swain. At the time, I was playing with Quas, and like Quas was like the Swain guy, old Swain. Quas was like the best Swain in the fucking world. This guy perma rank 1 playing Swain. So I remember just like in the team, we're like, what the fuck is EU just shit? And then it turns out you guys were way better than us. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, I was just trying to Swain a bit in EU, playing against like 25 years old, 26-year-old people, and like I was actually winning against Ari, but I didn't hit my W 1 time on Faker all game, and Ari was still like mega OP. So yeah, he just won me 9 hits. Yeah, he just won me 9 hits.
Oof.
They had better scouting. I don't know what to say.
Guys, being your most comfortable self this fall starts from the waist down. Whether you're getting up for weekends spent on the couch watching endless hours of League of Legends or sports or whatever, or getting back into your gym routine, comfort is of course king. That's why this fall I am upgrading my underwear drawer with MeUndies. MeUndies has something for every guy this fall. Their micro-modal fabric is breathable and comfortable, especially the ball caddy. You need to take care of the sack. If you never thought you needed a special pouch for your parts, take the hundreds of 5-star reviews as your sign that this could be your new boxer brief. Dom, tell me, how do your balls feel in the ball caddy?
Perfect. The ball caddy is how you protect the sack. You need the sack to be comfortable so that your sack only stays down once a week. You don't need the sack down every single day. Too much of anything is a bad thing. So you got to keep the sack up for most of the week, and then it could be down for a period of time. Yamato, tell us, how can we get MeUndies?
Before we get into that, I need to make sure that everybody knows, to entice them to get into the website. There's styles for everybody. They also have versatile loungewear. MeUndies isn't just about the underwear. It's all about comfort. You can get joggers, you can get hoodies, onesies even, and a lot more. Unmatched comfort, we already mentioned, the fabric, the micro-modal fabric. MeUndies' signature fabric is as soft as a warm hug from your favorite sweater, and that's super, super important. It's all about the comfort. So I'm telling you, be your most comfortable self this fall with MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/sackdown. That is MeUndies.com/sackdown for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in.
I wanted to ask you, because you played for so long within Europe, was there any opportunities that you had to come to North America? Was there any chance that you joined a North American team, you got a big contract in all the years you were playing? Or, was it one of those things where you always kind of signed earlier, you just always planned on staying in Europe?
No, I had some opportunities to play in NA like earlier on. Yeah, I was. I could have joined C9 in 2019. It's a while ago, so you can probably say that now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I could have joined them in 2019. And And there was, but in 2019 was many NA teams that was interested. But at the time, there was many, but we were also like EU was also just getting franchised, so every team was also like blown up there. So it was like just a lot of stuff happening. But yeah, it was a real possibility of playing in the NA at the time. But I could also join a top EU team for like not that much less money at a time. So I didn't feel like it made sense for me to go to NA. Yeah. Back then we thought like EU is just goats and NA is like low, you know. You go there for money. That's what we were thinking at the time, you know.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense basically with that way of thinking.
Yeah, it feels like the narratives are always like more overblown than what the reality is. You know, I feel like we're starting to see it right now where it's like obviously Europe didn't have the best performance at this Worlds, but now the mentality is like, man, NA is so much better than EU, and I'm like, really? Like I'm not bought in. Do you think that the narratives are going too anti EU and too pro NA right now? Because it does seem like there is a lot of parity between teams.
Yeah, probably it's probably going too far the other way. I don't know what the community sentiment is, but I think Fnatic was pretty good, honestly. At Worlds when we scrimmed them, at least like those guys probably have some kind of stage debuff, but they played really fast, really aggressive, and we had problems in scrims against them. There were like drafts that we could play against like other teams that would be like tough against Fnatic. And the G2, we had a little like we had some decent success against those guys in scrims, but they're also very good and they're way more like they're a bit more adaptable than us, I would say. If we would scrim for like 1 week and not meet each other and meet each other for a match, like we'd probably be like doing pretty well. But if we were like constantly be scrimming against them and develop and everything, then that's where like they would be like doing well, I think. So, but they're also a really good team. I don't think they're like worse than NA or anything. It just we'll just see. We didn't play so against each other, so we can't know. Like that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
The Dom made a very good point on Power Spike when we were discussing FlyQuest's that you guys had the matchup against GenG, and it's a good matchup in terms of the stylistic matchup. And I wanted to ask the question to you: would you feel the same way in terms of like you guys had success against GenG because of how like they play in a very disciplined way? They give they let the game like breathe in a different way than some of the faster paced teams like T1 or maybe Bilibili. Do you think that in some sense you guys were lucky in the draw?
No, I don't think so. Like I think GenG, assuming they like do what they're good at, from my point of view, it was the worst matchup we could have on the whole tournament because they play like us, but they are a little better in lane, and like I wouldn't say team fights are necessarily damage better. They're probably a bit better there too. So it's like a matchup where we kind of need something to happen for us to win. I like that was the matchup I really didn't want. Like I thought against like the faster teams we would have like a mismatch in style, let's say, and then we would have like a easier way to win, you know. But against them, it felt like, and you could kind of see it in the last 2 games when they decided to draft those like slow, very scaling comps. It's not was the worst thing that could happen to us, I think. Like because Chovy can play like he will play Tristana or Smolder, he won't lose lane, and they did some really good draft in the last game. Like we probably fucked up there, but yeah. Just I don't know. For me, that's what I thought. But how they ended up playing in the 2 games we won, obviously, it looked like a good matchup for us. Yeah,
interesting because like my whole like theory behind that approach is like when I thought about the games that you lost this tournament, it felt like almost all the games you guys lost, you were really far behind coming out of lane phase. Like when I'm thinking about even like the Hot in Real Life games that you won game 2 and then game 1 where you kind of came back, it felt like there was a lot of chances for you guys to get pretty far behind when it comes to like 15-20 minutes, like 3-4k down, where it just felt like kind of unplayable a lot of times. So that's like where a lot of the reasoning came from. So I felt like one of your team's biggest weaknesses was like early skirmishes and the game getting away from you early, and you're just not actually able to scale. So my idea behind this was that GenG actually gives you more opportunity to play the game, because GenG is not a team that puts their foot on your neck early, whereas opposed to like BLG or T1, it feels like those types of teams are harder. So you thought that those types of matchups would favor you because you'd be able to just withstand the early aggression?
I mean, that's just what I thought at the time. Like, I'm not saying that's like for sure right, you know. But
Okay.
I'm just saying that's just what I thought. I mean, yeah, I do think T1 is looking pretty deadly this tournament in this meta, honestly. So, like GenG probably didn't benefit from like the meta change of like the playoff meta was like GenG's best meta, I would say. So like, of course, they should be a little bit weaker. So yeah, maybe it was lucky. I just thought I just thought if they figure out how to deal with us, then we might have a tough. That might be tough. And I thought against like Chinese teams, especially, we could have like a good chance. We actually played against top esports before they played against T1, and we just the day before we just absolutely stomped them the whole day. So they
Nice. So they
they're
went in. So you're
probably.
the reason they showed up with zero confidence. Well played.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they were losing again. They were literally losing against NA. So like they were down bad there. So I think we could have like if we would have faced those guys or like, but we couldn't draw them. I don't remember who we could draw, but yeah, we probably couldn't draw them. But we
It's
were
like
hoping
either
for
LNG
for
or
LNG, of
SB1
course.
team.
Yeah,
Well, I
we were
mean,
hoping for LNG. Yeah.
Technically, you can draw anyone, right? Because the 6-8, like you could either draw. I mean, besides for other 6-8 teams, you can draw anyone because two of the 6-8 play against the 1-2, and then the 3-4-5 one match happens between them, and then one of the seeds ends up playing against 6. So like the only teams I guess you can't technically draw were BLG and Weibo, I guess.
Weibo.
Would have been, yeah.
I guess yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I also would have been down to play Hamba again instead of GenG. Yeah, I think BLG and T1, they're like, especially T1 looks pretty strong. So I don't know about that, but I think BLG looks like a beatable too. In scrims we do pretty fine against them, and yeah, they like. Yeah, but I don't know. That's just what my thought was. Like, I can't tell if that was true or not true. You know, at this moment, like, that's just what I was thinking.
From outside perspective, with all the information you have about the competitors now in semifinals, what's your read in terms of how the rest of the tournament will pan out? Like, who do you expect in the finals, and who do you expect to win it all?
Yeah, so it's Weibo and BLG, right?
Yes,
Playing?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay. So one thing that worth noting about the series was AGL against BLG. I think BLG did a very good job in draft, like with the last two games they played. I thought it was unlosable the last two games, especially game 3. Where like the HLE guys, that was their weakness. Like their mid just plays Silas and Yon, so like you gotta lock it on B1 so they don't take it away, you know, no matter what. And then that is obviously like gonna be like counterable. I was hoping Shoei was gonna be on the B1 Silas hype train as well, but there was no need against us because we don't really play it. So yeah, I don't know. I think BLG is probably gonna beat Weibo, and then I think T1's gonna win the Worlds. Like I think they're gonna beat GenG, and then I think they're probably gonna win. Yeah, I don't know.
My nightmare,
T1.
man. Not again.
Give us the details. Give us the details. Break it down for us, bro.
You gotta keep in mind we didn't play T1, so I haven't like excessively scouted them or anything. Like GenG, what they had to default to beat us, I don't think that's something you can do. Like I don't think that's gonna work that well against like T1.
Yep.
So like for me, that's but their old strategy can work better against T1 because T1 does like they play differently from us too. So I'm just thinking that just like some recency bias, and then like this meta is obviously great for T1 as well, and they qualified on old meta, basically like playing this meta in the old patch more or less. And I do like they play like Caitlyn or something, and then play like range support. I think it can be like pretty good. But I've also heard that T1 went like 1-20 against GenG in scrims during Worlds.
Shit.
So maybe GenG was just nervous because they hadn't played for like 2 weeks, because they qualified straight away 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's what people have said is that that's actually like a big rough point in this format, and there was like stats where like every team that has qualified as a 3-0 team into the one that like where they qualify first, each team has lost the first game. And I think in all those series that we've seen, if you just even go back to last year, you think about all the teams that qualified first, every single one underperformed, even including that JDG team versus KT. That was much closer than people thought it was, and it really took a game 4 throw from KT for JDG to be able to win. So I think that is something that people are kind of onto now, where it's like, do you even want to qualify out 3-0? Because it feels like you almost get punished in a way. You don't get the stage games. And one thing that we've seen throughout the tournament is the teams that have had their backs against the wall, they generally end up leveling up through that. If they're able to withstand like those series where they're on the brink of elimination, they're able to power through. It does feel like they play more confidently. Like I'm looking at Bwipo, for example, who dealt with that. Maybe same thing happens for GenG. We'll have to see how they come into the match versus T1. Then like BLG, the same thing when they played against G2. Feels like they played a lot more poised in the Honda Live series. So I think there is something to be said for this type of tournament format, being able to withstand those moments and grow from those moments, because it feels like up until you actually have your back against the wall, it's something that you don't know how you're going to react. So it gives you something to kind of lean on when you go forward.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might have been a factor. Yeah, and yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just wanted to highlight the same. It's kind of crazy how the meta like evolved, because it's like one day it's like Ahri where everyone's picking it, then it shifted to Sylas. Sylas was winning every game until the point where people started picking Galio, and then it's like there's just like a clear evolution. And if the evolution happens at the right time or at the wrong time, it can like decide if you make it or not. And I think especially like Bidi Weibo being like good examples of, damn, it's like their read was ass coming into the tournament, and then just because they were like skating through that pocket of like being weak and getting pushed there, it seems like they reached like the right conclusions, because sometimes you don't know until someone shows you. It's like you don't know how hard it feels to get punched before you get punched in a way.
Yeah, I mean they definitely evolved. Like, what was that series? Blue. I don't remember which team. Blue won Sylas, and then like they just picked like Ahri Vi straight away into it.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
Now Sylas. Before Sylas wouldn't get the resets from Ahri, but he does now. So it's like it's absolute like nuts matchup right now. So yeah,
well, that change was so random. It was like they called it a bug fix. Like there was like 14.9. It was like in the undertext. I was so surprised when I saw that shit live. Like I had to read it, real time.
Yeah, I mean, every time we see Ahri and Sylas, I don't know what the win rate of the Ahri side is, but every single time we see it, it's like the Sylas just looks like a giga cracked version of Ahri. It's the better version of Ahri the entire game. So
yep, that's the matchup you want to play when you pick. Like you don't even want to play. Like you can play against a mage, but like you don't really want to. But you can if you have like good ults and you're a good player. But you really want to play against Ahri. Like that's what you want to do.
100%. We saw it throughout. I wanted to ask you about Team Liquid, because I feel like they looked so much worse than what we expected going into this tournament. I don't know if you foresaw them kind of collapsing, but even in the games that they were supposed to win when they played against GAM, for example, it just looked really off. Like they just looked really off the entire time. What would you say, do you think is the reasoning for TL's performance? I mean, we saw scrim records, and it seems like they came into Worlds, they're winning all their scrims, and throughout Worlds, they like tilted off the face of the earth, and they were just losing to everyone. And it felt like they were losing games in ways that we normally don't see. So like, what was, you competed against them at this tournament, you played against them so much in North America. Were they worse than you expected? Like, is there anything that you really keyed in on that made them perform so much worse than, they had earlier in the year?
I would say one thing is they had like little like champion pool issues a little bit. I would say.
Yone, they couldn't play it really.
Yeah, and also just even like there's like APA just didn't play that many champs. I mean, of course, like he's tanking 6-ban every single game though, so it's like it's not, I guess, not only his fault, but yeah, they have some weird champ pools, I would say, and in terms of like what made them worse, I don't know. They didn't manage to like create that much early game leads. I don't know. They also, what surprised me a lot was that in the swap strategy that we on FlyQuest called Team Liquid Swap, we just saw them do it, and they did it worse than like how we do it now, to be honest. And they just didn't. They had an opportunity, in my opinion, to get like a big lead from their swap, but they didn't do it. And then that's something like they usually do. So it seems weird. It seems like they just like had a really bad tournament or something, because like even their strength usually wasn't there, and usually their strength against us as well, that like their bottom lane is like really strong in lane, but how well they were doing, it shouldn't really be sustainable how well they were doing in an A, like, so yeah, I don't know, just they didn't get their early leads from like bot laning phase or from swaps, and then they have never been like that insane, like if the game is even, it's usually like a team that likes like make stuff happen and snowball, I guess. So maybe that.
Understood. Yeah, I was really surprised personally, because I think that what you said about the lane swaps, it feels like their swaps got worse throughout the tournament. Like if you go and you watch their first game, and you see the leads that they're able to get in the lane swap, and then you compare that to when they played against GAM, and they're just like losing the lane swap on both sides, and they had this like they had to have APA TP top. This was the Tristana game where he's like TPing top and he's trying to push out the wave, and it just looked really off. It's like how did we go from TL being one of the best lane swap teams in the world to being worse than GAM, who like GAM strategy wise, it felt like that was the weakness of GAM, and GAM was just getting massive advantages in the lane swap. So it was really strange. Yamato, you have anything on Team Liquid that you want to add?
No, like on my end, my main concern about this team, because like when I did like the tier list of all the teams, it's like I put them like in ranges. It's like what is the weakest version of TL and what is like the best version of TL. Like I was concerned knowing that for the majority of summer, the same meta was like played over and over again. And then we've had this conversation in the past, but the way they lost to Fly, I felt like was very similar to how GenG lost to Hanwha Life, in the sense that they had like the Koki, Maoke, Kisante 1, 2, 3, and when the next evolution, they weren't ready to play it. It's like they didn't have the Smolder evolution, the Yone evolution, and then the question was, is APA like now with his record on the Tristana and the Koki and the Ziggs, how is he going to like be able to perform in a meta shift? Because it seemed like something that Spawn also mentions, like they seem to be very, very good when they can repeat the same champions over and over again, because everything that for example, Impact plays, they all does the same thing. It's like it's strong in swap, good in 1v2s, kind of like it's hard to dive, whether it was like the Kisante or the Jax. Code JJ always played like Engage champs or Nami, and then APA played like the same core of champs. I think you can like place each player on 3 champs, same thing with Umti. I think Gion was probably the player that played the most amount of champs. And then the question was like, how, if the meta shifts, how are they going to play? And I think that was like the main thing. It seems like they seem to thrive when they get to do like the repetition of the same champions over and over again. Like I think that's what hurt them the most.
Our producer DC'd, so wherever that question, if there's an abrupt cut here, we're going to just move on to another topic. We talked a little bit about the Team Liquid lane swaps and how that was broken throughout the tournament. So Yamato, I know you had something for Nukeduck, and we'll jump back into it right here.
So something that we have in common, Nukeduck, is that we both have worked with Bwipo, and Bwipo's quite the character. I think he brings a lot of energy, and I think I think with a player like Bwipo, you definitely need to like trust his pathways and give him that space. Can you share your experience in working with Bwipo, and how like the bad parts and the good parts in terms of how you like navigated to enable him in such a way? Because I think this was a fantastic year for Bwipo in comparison to, for example, his Team Liquid year. That was the most recent one.
Yeah. So I mean, Bwipo, he's like on the personality scale, he's like the very passionate guy, right? So he just cares a lot, and if things aren't going well, if he feels that, he'll be like he will like bring that up and be like annoyed about it, or like not annoyed, but he'll be like, I don't know the right word, but he'll like that'll affect him basically. And if things are going well, he'll be happy. So like from a personality standpoint, he's really someone that is good in our team, because we have 4 quite flat guys when it comes to like their emotions for the game. They're pretty much just like, they're just playing, going with the flow, and like they aren't that like emotional, I would say. So like having someone like him, I think that really like helps balance out the team. So like his personality is a good fit there, I think. I don't think you wouldn't want to have like too many of those personalities at the same time as well, perhaps. I don't know what that would look like, but yeah. And for as a player, he's just like, he's very good, and he's like insanely smart, right? Like he's one of those players that isn't like he just plays lane and then he like want to play team fight, and then like unless like he already decided like his champion can just do that and win, in which case he'll know and then he'll execute it. So yeah, and he also is like, he has good like pays really attention to details. So and he's also not afraid to die, which is like, you don't want your top laner to go like 0-5, let's say, but you also don't want your top laner to be afraid to go 0-5. Like that's even worse probably. Like if your top is afraid to die, then your team is gonna be shit. So like that's maybe something he has that like really like is good for us. So like one series that was like really apparent was when playing a C9 and in our own playoffs in NA. Like he basically, like we were like, I don't know, we were a bit nervous. We weren't playing that well that day, and yeah, he just like completely carried by like not being scared of them at all, and they weren't able to like snowball their leads because he was like just doing too much pressure, and they weren't able to like respond to this quickly. So I guess that was his main strengths. Let's see. So yeah, he's not afraid to die, which is like huge for me, and he is very smart, and he also knows like, he just knows the details. He knows like, he can like see like press tab. He knows each champion pretty well. So like if I manage to get like this item and this item, then I won't be able to die in the team fight. And that's just something that is like I don't know, just it's like pretty, especially in NA. I don't think many other top laners has that, and that's just like, it's very like good. Basically, it makes it easy for everyone. And like if it's true, like, and the enemy doesn't think about it, they might just team fight, and when at a like moment where Bwipo can't die, and he'll run with that. Like if that happens, he will like carry the whole game, you know, if he gets into a situation like that. So yeah, and he also is like his way of playing is also good, like a counterbalance against our team. Like our team is definitely like on the like non-fighting side of things when it comes down to like the moments where you got to take the choice to fight or not. And if we're making like an obvious wrong choice where we're not fighting, where we really could win, he is the guy that like balances that out and like vocalizes that to the team. So yeah,
I felt like this PSG game that you played, I feel like that was a very like good example of Bwipo making sure that the team does actually fight, because it felt like you guys were getting pretty NA there. It was looking like you guys were ready to shrivel up and die until Bwipo just like came into a fight, just flashed on the fucking support and just made some shit happen, and that's what allowed you guys to win. So I feel like there's definitely moments where you can really appreciate watching him within this team.
Yeah. That game we didn't find the winning way to play mid game, so it felt really bad for everyone. And then Bwipo just took it into his own hands and like basically carried the whole game by like not dying 5 times in a row when the enemy tried to kill him.
Yep, perfect.
As I remember the stories of Bwipo, like he always said that like when the year I was working with, he always called himself, "I am the spaceman. I want to create space. Pick me a champion that can create space." In a lot of cases, that's such a meme, right? But it's like Hilly and Bwipo really share that trait in terms of like if I posture forward and I am willing to like trade my HP bar to actively start something, I need my homies to trust me in that moment. Was there any point in this year where there was like conflicts in that? I remember like the whole story of Inspired, like the whole vegan talk. I imagine that there are some elements to that. Were there any conflicts and like, I'm fighting here, why are you fucking running? Was there any point where you guys had to like boil that down in a way to create kind of a hierarchy, or was it just natural?
So I wouldn't necessarily call it a conflict, but like what you're describing happens all the time. Yeah. or like it used to, at least like until like recently, that was happening like all the time. So it would be like I mean, yeah, so it happened a lot with Jensen, and it happened also in the start. It happened a lot with Quad as well, because like the way he was playing, like obviously he's a very good mechanical player and smart, but his playstyle was honestly a little like LCK vegan. It didn't work with Bwipo how he was playing before. So that was kind of like something like that took some time for us to like make work. Where like I was trying to talk to Quad about it, and he was like saying like, I see what he wants to do, but I just think that's so wrong that I can't do that in the game. Like I can't do that in the game, or sometimes. But so he's like but he didn't say like he thinks it's bad. He just said like he was mentally blocked to play like that. But when Quad let loose and he like more played with the team, he became like it all became like way better basically. But yeah, what you're describing happens all the time, because if you're the guy that you like to people likes to make like a lot of like space, or like either on the map or like in team fights for his carries, and then if he just like does something that he thinks is really good, like let's say he tanks a lot of cooldowns, like makes someone low and doesn't die, and then his teammates didn't do anything, then he'll be like, it'll click for him instantly, like, wait, what are my team doing? Like I did all this, and then we go back and then we look, and then it's like, wait, like they just use all their cooldowns on me, and like my like
You're not stepping up.
yeah, you guys are like not killing them, like or like you guys are not like taking like wide formation or something because of that. So yeah, that happens, but that's like honestly that's natural. That's how it has to be. Like it's the same way where like inspire junglers and something goes wrong, and then he has to look back. Why did it go wrong? Was it actually me, or like what can I do? And if people tell people like we really couldn't do anything here, then he will accept that as well if that was like actually the case. So then I don't know. That's just how you improve basically, like on his way. So yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it's a good balance. I mean, you have Quad, who is when we talked to Inspired, he always said that Quad was very Korean in his approach. You know, like he's very disciplined. Like when he gets like pressure and like advantages in lane, he's very careful to not throw those advantages. Whereas like somebody like Bwipo, when he gets an advantage, he's just trying to completely carry the game. So I think that having the balance within your team has made it strong. You know, I feel like you need both sides. And when I think back in Bwipo's career, I feel like that was the whole strength of that Fnatic roster that he was on in 2018, 2019, 2020, is where you had Hillsong Bwipo, who always wanted to fight, but then you also had like the people that could pull back a bit with Reckless Nemesis. And even though people viewed that as dysfunctional in some way, I do think that too many of the same ideas ends up having like either a team that's overly aggressive where you throw all the time, or a team that's overly passive. But yeah, Yamato, you got one last question, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, no, like it's a big topic, a big topic for everything, and you guys were kind of the flagship of everything, and the big conversation that is always happening post World is like what the West needs to do, right, to get better. Like you guys, inspired a lot of people. My end to see you do so damn well makes me insanely happy. It's like the way with esports, how it works. It's like you build like these relationships in a way, and you don't get to see each other for like 5 years. And then I was lucky to go to Berlin to just see you for 5 minutes, and that meant the world to me. To see you succeed so well makes me super, super happy. I added that as a part of the question because I just wanted to add that. But the question is, the conversation about West and getting better. What are the main things that you would say are lacking and needs to be done more? And what do you wish the other teams to learn from what you guys have achieved?
It's a bit hard to say, but like I wouldn't like, for example, like playing like a different meta. I don't think that's like that's like good advice. It would be nice if like other teams would be as good as like TL in NA, because like they pushed us, but that also feels like tough advice to give as well. Because I do understand the limitations as well. From like our solo queue is bad, so like we do need to, so it can be tough. But I would say that if you do find like a team identity that works for you, and like players that like complement each other, like then you can go far, like regardless of which region you're in. So I guess that can be a good takeaway. for other teams. Of course, it would help if you had more teams pushing each other in NA. Then that would like it may be even like 1 or 2 teams that had different styles than TL that would also be good. Then that would like probably make everyone better. But how to do that? I mean, like that's yeah. So hopefully someone does that. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Just a final thing. Would you agree that the wisdom and the experience of players need to be passed on in a way? Like, would you advocate for more players to just step into the coaching position and orgs to actually push for that?
I mean, especially for like individual coaching, I'm not 100% sure about like what's best as like the head coach and the strategic coach and everything. I've seen like both work, but I do think if you can afford to have like old pros like just do individual coaching at the very least, I do think that can be helpful. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
Well, so this is normally where we wrap, but one thing we always do at the end of our shows is we make sure that you don't feel like you've left the show as the guest unfulfilled. So if there's anything that you wanted to talk about on the show, anything that you thought we would ask you, a topic that you had that we didn't cover, we can do that. If not, we can leave it off here.
Yeah, I would want for Riot. I wish they would bring back Arena. Like all my friends love to play League, but only Arena, and I love to play Arena.
Perfect.
So like Riot, yeah. So I maybe like make some Reddit guys can make like Reddit posts about it. Probably work.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll
gonna do
make
it.
a call. I'll tell them. I got Mark Merrill on speed dial, so I'll let them know. And yeah, hopefully he didn't fire the guy recently that is going to be in charge of bringing back Arena, because that would be unfortunate. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the episode of the Sackdown. Thank you for being here at Nukeduck, and we will have another episode for you next week after semifinals.